Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back. Run it up, then run it back.
Happy Friday, everybody. We are back. It is Friday. We've made it to another one. We've got a lot of basketball to talk about. We've got Darius Garland coming on the show today, which is interesting timing because we're going to talk about his game from last night first. And you know what? I'm sure they've thrown it away already, but we do need to address it because sometimes you get ready to sit down and watch a game and you're excited. And then something weird happens. OKC, Cleveland, Thunder. Worst loss the Cavs have had this season so far. 134-114. SGA with 40 points, 8 assists. Didn't even play in the fourth. Lou Dort, a season-high 22. They lost by 20, but this thing was a 42-point game at some point in the third quarter. Lou, we've seen some of these wonky losses. We saw the Nets and Clippers just the night before. What do you do with a loss like this if you're the Cavs?
Throw it out the window. That's it. The window. Excuse me. With the season that they're having, they can't harp on this one. You know, it just looked like going through it over here. But it just looked like a game that OKC, they were just focused. They were locked in from the beginning, especially when you're a team like that where you're already successful and you start seeing shots go in the hole early on in that basketball game. That gives you a lot of confidence. That's what they play with. You know, SGA had 40 points in 3 quarters. They had other guys contributing in big numbers. They were just energetic, played hard on both ends of the floor, put Cleveland in a position where they just couldn't ever get going in this basketball game. And it's just a throwaway. You know, they were up as many as 40 points against the Cavs. My man Mitchell, he had a bad night coming into it, just shooting wise. So this is one of those games you don't think too much into it. You get ready for the next one in Minnesota on Saturday, and you move on.
Yeah, there's no reason to overreact. But this team has been tremendous all year long. They're on a historic pace here. And let me tell you this, shout out Darius Garland, because it just shows you from the outside looking in what kind of dude he is to even come on and do the show today after this type of loss. But that kind of, to me, speaks volumes of what type of kid he is. But again, this is nothing to overreact. Don't also forget this team is 1-1. They split the season series so far. They've already beat them once. So you know in the back of your mind, you're obviously capable of beating this team. Every great team in the history of this league has had some horrific nights, and this is just one of them. So you can't hang your head on this one. You don't even watch film, I think, because you're not going to play the Thunder again this season until you see them possibly in the finals, and then you kind of regroup, learn from that, and kind of move forward. But to me, this is a game where OKC got hot early on. Donovan Mitchell had an uncharacteristic night. The Thunder imposed their will, but this isn't anything to me to overreact. This is just one game. It happens to everybody, and you kind of keep it moving if you're the Cavs.
I'm glad you mentioned Donovan Mitchell. He has 19 total points, shot 6 of 31 in the 2 games that he's played OKC this season. Look, obviously he's having a hell of a season, but that's a 19% average, Chandler, in these 2 games. So what is it that they do differently that clearly no one else knows what to do with Donovan Mitchell?
It's a small sample size, right? It's two games. And Donovan Mitchell, there's no recipe for stopping a guy like Donovan Mitchell. He's so good offensively. He's so strong. He can shoot the ball. He can get to the rack. He gets to the free throw line. Last night he was 3 of 15. He only played 20 minutes because this game was toast, you know, off jump. So I think that's a good thing. But again, every player, every star player also has nights like this where you're inefficient. You just don't get the ball to bounce certain ways. And it happened. So does the Thunder, you have to give them a little credit. Look, they have great wing guard defenders with Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace, Lou Dort. They do have multiple guys they can throw at you that can make it difficult. But I can't sit here and say there's a recipe for stopping Donovan Mitchell because there's not. It's just simply an off night, in my opinion. This offense has been so good all season long. This offense is so fast, so explosive. They get out, they play with great pace. They get their bigs involved. They have great guard play. They have great bench depth, shooting. The Cavs have it all. So to me, I don't think there's a recipe to stop them. I think this is more just not making shots for Donovan Mitchell. And yeah, the Thunder can be physical with them. They can force them into spots and long twos and different early shots that are uncharacteristic of him on certain nights. But I think you gotta give credit for the Thunder, but this is just an off night for the Cavs. It's just an off night for Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion.
Chandler, you know what the positive about that is? If they do see each other in the playoffs, it'll be in the NBA Finals. So at least they got to that point where he could struggle in the NBA Finals, and by then, the game is going to be different for both teams. They're going to game plan and game prep one by one as they make adjustments going through that series. So, like you just said, man, I wouldn't. If I'm Donovan Mitchell, I don't think too much into this. If I have to run into this team again, it's going to be in the NBA Finals, and by then I'll be just fine.
Lots of time between now and then. Lou, you love the guy. You stood by him. Your MVP, SGA, 40 points in 3 quarters, man. Like, that is what, if you had to pick a best part, where do you start of his game?
I just would start with pace. He makes everybody play the way that he wants to play the game. He's never sped up on the offensive end. You never see him really getting out of character. You can't really get him rattled or any of those things. He uses his size to get to his spots. Just poise. Like, look at these shots. These are pickup shots. He's 15 feet from the basket, getting exactly where he wants to go. Pull up threes in transition. Just the pace that he plays at, that just makes him unguardable. You can't really get under his skin. You can't really rattle him. Like, if you pick him up full court, he's smart enough to give the ball up, go get it back in scoring range on the other end of the floor. And that's where he's able to put pressure on you with a 6'6", 6'7" frame. Never under pressure, never under duress. He's always poised, always confidence. That's where I would start with his game. Just always being able to get to his spots and do what he wants to do on the basketball floor.
Like an old young man. That's what he is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's from his game and just the way this dude carries himself. I've said it before. It's since even last night, him talking in the press conference about Jalen Williams kind of has this funny banter with him, but also this maturity and this respect and this leadership level that SGA has. It truly is impressive. And you look at the Cavs run, right? They're on this historic run. Are they going to win the most games ever in franchise history? They're 34-6. Way above the Boston Celtics, who everyone thinks is the best team in the Eastern Conference, arguably the NBA. The Thunder are 34-6, and no one is surprised. So that kind of tells you how good they are and the expectation levels of what we had for a team like Cleveland versus a team that we had expectations we had for a team like Oklahoma City. They have the same exact record, and we're just not surprised at the Thunder and their success and how many games they win. And this is when arguably their second best player has been out for the majority of the season. It's next man up mentality, but it all starts with SGA. He's kind of, to me, he's running away with the MVP this year. He was so close last year, but man, the dude is an absolute stud, and he is a huge main reason why this team is where they are today is because of him.
I just think it's fun too when you see a young team like this. They have different milestones, like they're setting goals along the way. And you don't have Hardenstein last night. Obviously, Chet Holmgren's not out there yet. They still take care of a Cavs team that they just lost to last week. So when you start setting these types of goals, Chandler, how important is it for a young up-and-coming team to continue to just grow this way, slowly but surely?
Yeah, it's huge. And I think when you're this good and then you're this young, you really do just got to take it game by game. And you are thinking big picture, right? This team this year is so young, but they're thinking championship or bust. Like, they are that good. They're not just trying to get in the playoffs, not just trying to get to the Western Conference Finals. They're trying to win it all, and they're trying to win it all, and they're trying to build a dynasty for years to come. So I think that has been the standard set for this team. You got to give their front office credit. You have to give their head coach credit. But these guys, they play hard. They know their role. A lot of guys their age, like kids their age on this team, usually they don't buy into roles. Usually they think they could be somewhere else. Grass is greener. They could be doing so much more. That's not the case in Oklahoma City. They're bought in. There's a pecking order. They understand what it takes to win. They defend. They play hard as shit every single night. So you never have to worry about effort when it comes to a team like OKC. So they really do have it all. And again, this is without Chet Holmgren, who was on his way to an all-star game this year. Their best defending big shot blocker. Hartenstein's kind of been out in the lineup too. He's big. They're big $80 million addition. So they're only going to continue to get healthier, and they're only going to continue to get better as the season goes on. So they're scary.
Pretty fun. It's fun to watch. We had another game last night. Look, this Kings situation, it's out of control, Lou. Rockets, Kings, 8th win in 9 games for Sacramento. DeMar leading the team with 33 points, 16 of those in the fourth. Malik Monk had 26 and 9 assists. They're now 9th in the West after winning those 8 of 9. Usually you get like the first win after you let a coach go, maybe a couple. This is going on a very long time now, Chandler. Are they legit? I mean, this can't be as simple as a coaching change. What is this?
It's the same roster. It's kind of the same style. They're playing faster. They're a much better defensive team. But again, it's not like Doug Christie was there during training camp. This isn't like a Mike Brown wasn't doing this and Doug Christie is doing this. I think truly it's just the fact that you can get a fresh face, a change. There was clearly some personality and some locker room issues that were unable, that were, kind of stunting the growth and the progress of this team, because this team has made major adjustments and they have capitalized on this. And this game was insane. The fourth quarter, both teams score 42 points. It's back and forth. They're up and down. But when it matters, the Kings showed poise. They have made big time plays and they dug in and got stops. And that's been the difference. And they've always had the talent. They've always had the shooting, like the personnel. I think that is why a Mike Brown gets fired, right? Because when Vivek or these front office, they're like, okay, we have the talent. We have the roster built out. We have the shooting. We have 2 stars. We have DeMar DeRozan, who still is balling at his age. So that when that doesn't translate to wins, there's got to be a scapegoat. And unfortunately, that was Mike Brown this year. So listen, this team has responded, like you said. Usually it's like, okay, the next game out, we got to prove that it's not our fault. This is a completely different team. This is a team that's now above 500. This is a team that is kind of going to continue to climb in the standings. They're deep. They have shooting. They can defend. And when you have a two-headed monster like Fox and Sabonis, you're always going to be in game. So you got to give them credit, the players. They could have easily folded. They could have easily chalked this season up, to a coaching change and a disaster. They went the complete opposite way, and they are collecting wins.
Lou, do you want to talk DeMar here? Because DeMar DeRozan in the mid-range, stop me if you've heard this one before, but he was a little bit on fire last night. You'd think people would know like what's coming, but apparently not. 7 of 14 from the mid-range. Is he the best in the game right now? And if so, where does he rank all time?
Absolutely. And it's a lost art. I love to see that he's still in that mid-range and he's staying true to himself. Even I gave him a hard time last week when he was making 3-pointers in the overtime win for the Sacramento Kings just last week. But I've watched this guy time and time again work for hours at a time and don't go 15 feet away from the basket. Like, this is his game. This is who he is. This is his makeup. And where would he rank all time? He'd have to be top 5, because that's been consistently who he is throughout the course of his career, over a decade doing the same thing. We just talked about SGA getting to his spots and nobody can really do anything about it. When it comes to the top of the key, from free throw line extended, both left and right side and in the middle, DeMar DeRozan is the best in the game. No matter what, it's coming. He's going to use his 6'8" size to either shoot over you, or he's going to get fouled, or he's going to drive past you and do what he wants to do. And he's also a dangerous finisher at the rim. So he's been one of those guys that's found his lane, found a niche for him that's worked, and he's done it at a high level as long as we've known him. So I got to put him top 5 in there with the Kobe Bryants of the world, the T-Macs of the world. When you start talking mid-range, you got to throw a Tim Duncan in there. You got to throw Kevin Garnett, Chris Webber, Elton Brand. These are guys that made their living in those areas, but they were bigs. This is a guard that's doing this, and he doesn't do it much with his back to the basket. That's the most impressive part. He's facing up. He's 1-2 dribbles. He has the whole package, but one of the most elite in the game, and it showed last night.
And Lou, what's crazy? Like when this signing, a lot of people look to like why they signed DeMar DeRozan. When you look at the roster, he does kind of fit this offense. Look at the Murray shooter, Fox shooter, Monk shooter, Herter shooter. So when you space the floor with all these guys that you can't really help off of, and then you have arguably one of the greatest mid-range players of all time, who gives him more space to create and actually go one-on-one and kind of pick you apart without having a kind of the guy stunting a weak side off you, helping off you, because you have those threats of shooting. It makes sense. So maybe DeMar DeRozan wasn't being used properly initially. Maybe he wasn't in the right spots. Maybe the simple just rotations and kind of different guys on the floor at the same time weren't working, because when you look at this team and the way they can all step out and shoot the ball, it works. So I'm glad to see that they found some rhythm here. DeMar DeRozan's kind of always been that closing type guy, and as good as Fox and Murray are, it's just comfortable having a guy like DeMar DeRozan out there at the end of the game, give him the ball, and you trust him to go make a play. And he's been doing that, especially since the coaching change.
I was just going to say that, man. Like, they have a balanced attack. Like usually early on in the game, you see Fox, he's in attack mode. He's setting the tone for how the game is going to go. Fourth quarters come, that's when you see more of Sabonis. That's when you see DeMar DeRozan. They're putting the ball in their hands. DeMar dead balls, situations where they need a bucket and a half court. They're putting the ball in DeMar DeRozan's hands. Other than that, it's Sabonis and it's Fox in the transition. They figure something out. You know, when you bring in a different coach or you put a different guy in a position to be the coach, sometimes he comes in, he say, listen, this is how we've been playing, but I'm going to tweak this little piece. I'm going to change this little part. This is how I see it moving forward. And it's been able to work for the Sacramento Kings in a way that they've been able to utilize DeMar.
Well, keep our eye because there's something's going on up there. Jalen Green, by the way, obviously a special player. We knew that. But in his last 7 games, he's averaging 31 points, 54% shooting, 50 from 3. Chandler, we've seen the flashes, but does this feel like he's taken that next step to be who he's going to be?
Yeah, and those percentages that you just said, 54% from the field and 50 from 3, that's kind of his issue, right? He's kind of a high volume, kind of tough shot taking guy. And sometimes he makes them, but then sometimes you're looking like, okay, we probably could have got a better possession out of that. But the kid is so talented. It's never going to be about his talent. I think it's him kind of getting comfortable, learning how to play the game at a high level, right? Learning when he can take those shots, when he can't take those shots. He had a huge 3 last night to kind of cut it to 1 there in the fourth quarter there. He's fearless. I think he's a great kind of 2-player with Sengun because he does give that dynamic scoring ability where he can go and get you a bucket. He can get out in transition. He's a freak athletically. He's one another guy I'd love to see in the dunk contest one day. But yeah, I think it's nice to see. I think as guys get older and they mature, they kind of understand where they're best on the floor. They pick their spots better. They shoot better shots. And sometimes it's just as simple as that, where you're not pressing, you're not forcing. And he's kind of found a happy medium where he's doing both. And now he's being an efficient scorer rather than an inefficient high volume scorer that's almost a liability on certain points. Now he's understanding how letting the game come to him and get into his spot. So I'm super stoked for him. The West is deep. There's a lot of guys that could make the All-Star, but you can make it a case that Jalen Green should make his first All-Star this year too. So I don't think they get 2, and I think if they get 1, it's Sengun, but the kid's had a hell of a year.
We need to expand the All-Star raw. I mean, if we're making changes anyways, but then again, then it takes away the special. I need to think this one out, guys, but it feels like there are a lot of guys that are going to be left off that probably need to be on it. So we'll fix it. You want to talk Pacers Pistons, Lou? There's some funny in this one as well. Pacers with the win, 111-100. Miles Turner had 28, 8 of 11 from 3. Pascal Siakam with 26 points. Cade Cunningham had 20. Jalen Duren had 17 and 17 rebounds. Pacers, they've won 7 of their last 8. They're sitting in the 6th spot out east, and they finished last season 6th in the east. I would imagine they'd like to change that up a little bit. Do you think they have whatever it is they had last year to make that kind of run again?
No. Look, Chandler,
you asked him this yesterday, Beadle.
Because they won again. And so I'm like, maybe if they keep winning, it would change it.
No,
So
I gotta give these guys credit. I think they're finding something at the right time of year. This is a time of the year where going into the All-Star break, you have a great idea what type of team you're going to be moving forward. You're going to be 50, 55 games in going into that break. You want to come back with some confidence, knowing that we can make a real run and we can put some pressure on the top teams. So it's no slight to Indiana. I just feel like those top 3 teams, they've created so much separation that it's going to be a 3-team run. It's going to be the New York Knicks. It's going to be Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's going to be the Boston Celtics. And it's going to come down to who's going to knock who out of the playoffs and challenge the Boston Celtics for it. I don't see Indiana being one of those teams because, like I said, from New York and Cleveland, I think there's just a separation from 4 to 6 on out. It's everybody else. And these top three teams are going to run away with a lot of these matchups that they're going to run into. And I don't see Indiana putting a lot of pressure on the New York Knicks in a first round or anything of that nature. So I think they're playing good basketball. They got to find another way to get into a top 3 or top 4 position where they can have home court advantage. Other than that, this is probably going to be a first round exit based on how these other teams are playing.
Yeah, I think the East, the top of the East is powerful, man. And so I think the Pacers last night, they're one of those teams that they gave us so much hope last season to where we expected better. It's almost like Minnesota in the West, right? We expected them to make this jump. Obviously, Minnesota made the big deal, but they're a worse basketball team. For whatever reason it is, it feels like the Pacers didn't get better this summer. And they have the system, they have the coach. Anytime you have Rick Carlisle and you have that system, it's perfect for today's game, right? It's up and down, it's pick and roll, it's two-man game, and it's a boatload of threes. And Tyrese Halliburton, as good as he is, he's kind of, his numbers have taken a step back. But Siakam's been great. Turner and Matherin have been great. But these guys have to be elite and they have to outscore you to win. So in a playoff series, when they do go up against a Cleveland or a Boston or New York, can they sit down? And when the game slows down, can they sit down and can they defend? I don't think they can for 7 games against one of those teams, and they're probably going to be a 6, 7, or 8 seed. So it's going to be tough for them, but they do have the offensive firepower.
Yeah, can I ask you, Chandler? Like they're 6, Pistons 9. It's a game and a half between them. We've seen a lot of both. We've seen a lot of the Pistons more than anything this season playing. If these two were in a 7-game series, who would you take? And is it that easy to answer at this moment in time?
It is, and I want to say Pistons, but it's probably the Pacers, right? They have the experience. They have those players.
I kind of feel like there's an argument here.
Listen, I would be pulling for the Pistons, and I would. It would be a great series. I think the Pacers have a little bit more. They've been there before. The Pistons are one of these teams on the rise, but they also have this combination of these vets that they've played in big playoff games before. It'd be a great series. I'd have to see closer to it to make my official pick. But right now, tomorrow, if they play a series, I'd take the Pacers. They're the better team right now, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They are the better team. For me, it's a vibe check. I just love how hard the Detroit Pistons play, right? How confident they are. From last year to this year, you've obviously seen an improvement in this team and the way that they go about business. If they have an opportunity to be on a big show, on a big stage, I think they're going to show up and they're going to prove, especially like Chandler just mentioned. You add some really good veteran guys that have playoff experience to be back in that conversation, to be in that building and have something to prove with a chip on your shoulder. Detroit Pistons, they might not be an easy out as they're advertised right now. So if you're putting them against the Indiana Pacers right now, I think they give them hell, and I might lean towards the Detroit Pistons team in 7-game series.
I'm telling you, there's something there.
The thing about the Pacers, you don't just turn a switch on to become a good defensive team either. And they are a bottom 5, bottom 10 defensive team in the NBA. So it's like come playoff time, they're just going to play the Pistons and all of a sudden dig in and lock up. Like this is not who they are. So that to me is where they would struggle. Again, they can outscore you. They can score at the best of you. You saw that last year. You saw a glimpse of it this year in this little stretch that they're on. But when it slows down in playoffs, it gets more physical and possessions matter more. I just don't believe in them defensively to win a series against a good team.
I'm also a little torn because I love Isaiah Stewart, but I also think Legos are cool. So I don't know how I feel about throwing Legos in Miles Turner's. So I'm a little torn between the two.
Play with Legos. You shut up. You play with Legos.
You play with Legos. He's a hell of a collection. We have to get this in here. This is right up both your alleys. Cade Cunningham, of all people, said that with 2 to 3 months of training, he could beat out Dak Prescott for the Cowboys starting QB role. What is happening? Who wants to take this first? Because I'm blown away by this. I've never even heard him talk.
As a Cowboys fan, Beadle, we do have our frustrations with Dak Prescott.
Sure.
Okay, you tripping on this one. You tripping. There are positions that for 2 or 3 months, you can train and get yourself in a position to possibly be in the NFL. Starting quarterback ain't one of them, bro. That ain't the one.
Quarterback.
Yeah. That's not the one. Listen, I get it. We get frustrated from time to time when you represent that star, but to go get Dak Prescott job in 2 to 3 months is outrageous to say.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm all for the NBA. I'm all for the NBA guys transitioning over. And like Lou just said, quarterbacks are different, man. Like when I say that NBA players can hop over there, I mean like athleticism, run, jump, catch. Like I mean like a tight end or like Anthony Edwards being like a corner, or one of Zion being a safety. I don't mean being the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
He went big. He went so big.
It's crazy, too, because I don't think I've ever heard Cade Cunningham say anything, and then he came from the top rope.
It's been frustrating being a Cowboys fan. It's frustrating, man. So listen,
Man,
it got us all feeling like we should try. Everybody feels like we should go out and try to be the quarterback for the Cowboys.
there used to be such respect for the Cowboys, and now you got a guy who we've never heard talk say he only needs a couple months to take over. That's one of my favorite things that's happened all season. All right. It's so good. We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna talk a little all-star on the backside. Let's run it back.
They run it back, run it up, run it back.
We're going to get the All-Star starters next Thursday. It is so fast. So we're going to take a look at who's in or who is out on making the team. We'll look at the Eastern Conference first. These are the locks, according to us, of course. Giannis, Tatum, Cat, LaMelo, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, CADE Cunningham. I'm looking at him in a whole new light today. But we've got 4 spots left. 2 have got to be front court players. Guys, who are we thinking? Got a lot to choose from, by the way.
Well, we're missing Tyler Hero. I think Tyler Hero is a lock. He's got
okay. So Hero's a lock.
The numbers he's putting up. I also think Dame Lillard is going to get in with what he's doing with the turnaround Milwaukee's had. Really? And Evan Mobley is also a lock. I think the Cavs get 2 All-Stars this year, and I think it's Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley. So unfortunately, Jared Allen, he's having a great year. Listen, those numbers are great. Darius Garland, he's been playing at a high level too. But if they get 3, I still don't think Jared Allen gets in. I think it's Darius Garland. But I think Mobley, Hero are the locks, and then it gets a little dicey with maybe Dame.
The Dame one's interesting to me too. See, this is what I'm saying. I think we need more spots if we're changing the format. So Jared Allen not a lock, Mobley a lock. Are we on the same page, Lou?
Somewhat. I'm looking at my list right here. I like Mobley.
Yeah.
I like Mobley in that conversation, but if not Mobley, I think it'll be Garland that'll get another spot out of Cleveland. And I agree with Chandler on Tyler Hero. I think Tyler has done enough to be in. And I also like Trae Young. Trae Young has also been great this year, and he already has star power. He's in one of those positions where, if he's playing well enough, he's going to be grandfathered in. I think Trae Young really gets a look. I'm not sure if LaMelo Ball, if not voted in, is an absolute lock like we feel like he is. We made this argument last year with Wemby. You can't be absolutely at the bottom. Like, this team hadn't won 10 games as of yet. But with the season that he's having with the numbers, it hasn't translated to winning. It hasn't translated into being that difference maker to get your team in the conversation with some of these other guards. That's where it gets a little tricky for me. But if I had to make some changes, that's where I would go. I like Trae Young in that conversation. I like Tyler Hero. And then for the bigs, you got to consider Mobley. But if not, I'm going to go with 3 guards, and I'm going to give it to Garland.
I got to pull up the latest votes.
If the Hawks get an All-Star, you think it's Trae over Jalen Johnson?
I think because of the star power. Trae has been Trae Young. He's already been there a few times. So to have another opportunity, I think he gets that look over Jalen simply because of that.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. And I agree with you. LaMelo Ball, again, the fans only vote for 50% of the starters. So obviously he's got a huge following. They're pushing the heck out of him. He's having a great year. Then the rest of the votes are coming from media and the players. I don't know if they're going to vote him in as a starter. So it's gonna get interesting for him. Dude's putting up crazy numbers. He deserves to be an all-star starter. Not quite sure.
All-Star starter is a whole different ball game. And speaking of, I also wonder how much of a push with your team overall as we get closer to the end of votes and the picks. Because Tyrese Halliburton, we talked about it. They've won 6 of their last 7. And the rest of the season maybe hasn't been amazing. He's averaging 18, just under 9 assists so far. And the team is 6th in the East. Are we in or out on him making his 3rd All-Star team, Lou?
I would unfortunately I would say out. Like I said, I like a lot of guards that the way that they've been playing. I'm looking at the consistency of the season, right? It's been relatively quiet for the Indiana Pacers until late. Now he's starting to get it going. Some of these guys been cooking since training camp, and I'm gonna give them that look over the edge. Like, if I have to pick over a Tyrese Halliburton or a Tyler Hero, which one of these guys am I leaning towards? Tyler Hero, dealing with all of the things that he's been able to deal with in Miami, he's playing lights out basketball. We were trying take Trae Young. We was trying to make him out for dead. He's got Atlanta Hawks back in the conversation of being a really good basketball team, and he's playing at a lot high level to the point where we even feel like Jalen Johnson has an opportunity to be an all-star. You can make a case for Dame and how they've rebounded back. So all of these different guys, even Garland and the way that Cleveland Cavaliers are playing. So when it gets to that guard, it's guard heavy at that point guard position. Some of these guys are locks. It looks like Tyrese Halliburton. He would be one of those guys that's on the outside looking in for me.
Yeah, I think Tyrese Halliburton, again, he's kind of coming on strong lately, but to me, there's going to be a third guy from Cleveland before Tyrese Halliburton gets in, just because that team's success, the historic run they're on, just the simple record, the fact that they're 34-6. They do probably deserve 3 All-Stars. So it's tough. Again, what's he going to go into? This always frustrates me because I don't know if it's individual stats, if it's team success, if it's a combination of both. Like, I'm confused by it all still because I feel like it changes year to year. But even you look at like a Derek White, I see him on some lists. He's averaging 16, 4, and 4. Like, is that really an all-star stat line? Like, probably not, right? And they're not even the best record in the Eastern Conference, so you can't give the Celtics 3. So it'll be interesting for that last spot. I think it's going to be Damian Lillard, and I agree with you guys. I think Mobley's in. I think Tyler Hero is a lock, but I think it should be Dame Lillard in that last spot.
I know. I feel like this used to be easier when we were younger to figure out. Now I'm just a little bit more confused, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. We're going to find out Thursday in the starters, at least. The Western Conference All-Star locks, according to us. This is what we got right now. And you, by the way, if you want to take umbrage with any of those as well, feel free. But there are a bunch of names that are obviously left off this list as is. So we will start with Devin Booker. He's a 4-time All-Star. Obviously, the numbers are down across the board. The team not exactly where people probably thought they'd be. They're at 500, 10th in the West. For him to make his 5th All-Star team, Lou, are you in or out?
It's gonna be tough. This team just hadn't played to the level, right? Like individually, Devin Booker is gonna be Devin Booker, but again, when you start factoring these things in, you factor in the impact that you're having on a team as a whole and the way that they're competing. That's why we're even having a conversation about the Cleveland Cavaliers possibly getting 3 guys in because of how they've competed as a whole. Phoenix hasn't done that generally. Now, these guys are, like we keep saying, some of these guys are perennial all-stars. They're grandfathered in, and they have the advantage of being added to a lot of these conversations based on their names. Devin Booker is going to be one of those guys, and he's playing at a high level. But do you put him in over other guys that's having big impacts, like a Norman Powell, James Harden? These guys have been the 1-2 punch that the Clippers didn't know that they had with Kawhi Leonard being out, and they've held it together. They've been able to put the Clippers in a position to be a successful team. Do you look at a Jalen Williams? Do you look at another guy that can have an opportunity to be that, to come out of Oklahoma City with the impact that he's having? You know, you can make an argument for Fox and Sabonis and all of these other guys before you make that argument for Devin Booker. So I think he's out.
You think so too, Chandler?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You can't get 2 All-Stars if you're the 10th seed, and just the expectations of this team. And Devin Booker, listen, it sounds silly, but he's not going to make the All-Star game this year, but we all know he's an All-Star. We all know he's an All-NBA talent. Like the West, side note, the West is probably going to win this game by 15 plus points.
Wow.
If they actually play, the West's team is absolutely stacked, but it's too deep this year for Devin Booker to make it.
Just like that. I'm not even watching now. The West is going to win. De'Aaron Fox, kind of the same boat as Tyrese Halliburton in the sense of the team is all of a sudden just figured some stuff out. They're 21-20. We already talked about all that. But here's an interesting nugget. And I don't know if anybody would pay attention this far in. 3 of the wins that they've had, De'Aaron Fox did not play in. Now, I don't know how much homework's being done when they put these all-star teams together, but are we in or out on him making his 2nd, Chandler?
It's going to be tough. I think it's going to come down to either him or one of those Clippers, I think, for that last spot, right? It's going to be De'Aaron Fox, and then I don't know, if you look at the Clippers, who's going to get in? If they're the 5th seed right now, so you would think they deserve 1, but is Norman Powell really going to get the nod over James Harden? We'll see. I do think Jalen Williams is a lock, Sengun's a lock, but it's going to be the 12th man is going to be either Fox or a Clipper, and I think it's De'Aaron Fox. The dude, look at his numbers. His numbers are crazy. He's so productive. They're winning games now. Everything they've been through, the fact that they're going on this streak. And again, a lot can change from now to the votes actually get put in. But if they continue to win at the clip that they're winning at, I think Fox gets in. I think they deserve an all-star. And I think his numbers are better than both those guys on the Clippers number, and he deserves it.
Interesting. Because Norman Powell was the next guy I was going to ask about. And he's obviously been a big part of everything the Clippers have done so far. 23 a game, averaging almost 24, honestly. Lou, so that it's a little bit of a situation here. Do you have Norman Powell making it before you would have De'Aaron Fox?
I do. I think Norman Powell gets in. Like I said, he's just been consistent this whole year. Hadn't had a lot of waves coming out of LA this year. You hadn't had a lot of conversations about any of the off-court distractions, and Norman Powell has been steady. He's been consistent, been their leading scorer this whole year. A lot of their success is based off the way that he's been able to play when available on a basketball court. So if it came down to me, I think he even makes it over James Harden if they got to have one guy come out of the Clippers. I think Norman Powell is going to be that guy.
And by the way, there's 6 games over 500. Like I said, they're the 5th seed. They're 6 games over 500. So they deserve an all-star. So it's just crazy when you look at the West. It's so deep. But I would have zero problem. Norman Powell, James Harden, or Fox, one of those 3 should and will make the team.
Norman Powell is interesting to me. It would be his first all-star game. And the reason why he probably wouldn't make it is because it's a popularity contest to a point, right? And everybody knows James Harden. So I'll be curious to see how that plays out for him. Guys, whether you want it or not, on the other side of this commercial break, more Jimmy Butler news. Yeah, we're not getting through a show without it.
Run it up, run it back, yeah.
Well, guys, it is Friday. We've been talking about it all week that Jimmy Butler's 7-game suspension's over, and he could technically be in uniform tonight when they face Denver. But Ramona Shelburne, shout out, reporting that individuals close to the Miami Heat do not want him around the team. So that's out there now, which means if we've heard it, he's heard it, Lou. How are we thinking Jimmy's taken this latest reporting?
Who cares? Listen, if those individuals aren't players that are going to be in uniform or on the coaching staff, who cares if they don't want them around? This is grown man business. People have disagreements. At the end of the day, nobody's been hurt. Nobody's put hands on another person. This is a war of words. This is a negotiation of money and people being happy and wanting to move on with their careers. Nobody has been harmed. So who cares about who wants him around or not? This is a business. He's expected to show up. He's expected to play if he's available. If not, that'll be another conversation that the Miami Heat brass will have with him, and the fines to continue on. But as far as people's individual feelings and being emotional about it, who cares? If he's available to play and they're there, he should be a professional. He should show up and be in uniform.
Go ahead, Chandler. It's gonna get bad.
I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I have to just believe my eyes and what I've seen and the behavior I've seen from him. I don't think he plays, or if I do, I think it's going to be awkward. I think it's going to be weird. He's made it clear as day that he does not want to be there. He doesn't want to play. So although his 7-game suspension is up, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw some back spasms come up, or I wouldn't be surprised if I saw
migraine.
Yeah,
migraines are proof.
It's going on 11 o'clock in the East. I'm sure they've had shoot around already. Like, is there not a word whether he participated in shoot around or in practice or anything?
Side note, I don't know how the hell the Heat are favored by 1.5 tonight. So I'm all over the Nuggets on a complete side note tonight. But also, what do they actually do they play with them? Like, do they bring him off the bench? Like, is there a way that you can kind of even piss him off more? Like I'm just so excited to see how this unfolds, because it is a drama series, and I don't think it's going to get better. And I don't think he plays. I really don't. I don't think he plays. I think it's a crash landing.
I think you're right, Chandler. We haven't heard. Oh, look, and you're right. The shoot around is something must be out there somewhere. There's also a source, though, on his side, because that's what we're doing now, right? We got sources close to the Miami Heat. We got sources close to Jimmy Butler, and the sources close to Jimmy Butler are saying this actually could get.
Thanks, Sean, for leaving. Now our source is gone. Appreciate it.
Too many. He says, or they say, that this could become even uglier. Yeah, you think? It feels like we're headed right towards that right now. So let's say he does play, and I'm with you, Chandler. I don't think he plays tonight, but if he does. Are we going to, like, what version of Jimmy Butler? He's not exactly the best poker face. Like, I feel like, is he going to be engaged? Is he going to be snarky?
Less than 8 shot attempts. You are going to see passive aggressive. You are going to see somebody, and I hope that's not the case, because listen, you never want to disrespect the game like that. You don't want to come out here and kind of embarrass yourself and the organization and just the game of basketball. So I hope it doesn't come to that level, but this is a petty, bitter, feels like a childish fight that these guys are going back and forth about, and it is a pissing contest, and I don't know who's going to win. I don't know who's even winning right now, Michelle. I
don't either.
I see him sitting out. I see him sitting out before he goes out there and embarrasses himself. Like, this is, if you go out there and mess with if he goes out there and messes with the integrity of the game, listen, again, we're talking about somebody that's 35 years old. This game has a way of pushing you out if you don't want to show the game the proper respects. So I think before he even goes out there and embarrasses himself, embarrasses the Miami Heat, like, you're not going to go through a whole pregame routine, do all of things just to go out there, shoot hook shots, don't care, don't get back on defense, be a visible distraction to what's going on. Before that, I think he does what he's been doing, and that's sitting at home, losing his money and waiting for something else to happen, opposed to going out there being in uniform and embarrassing himself, messing with the integrity of the game. I don't see Jimmy doing that.
It's just money being burned. We know Jamal Murray just coming off his best game of the season on Tuesday. By the way, Chandler, I think the reason why you're seeing a favoring on the Miami side of things is possibly no Jokic, possibly no Jokic. That being said, if Jamal Murray, if this is the version that consistently begins to be present in all of these games, are we back to looking at the Nuggets as a threat in the West?
Yeah, I mean, they've shown kind of flashes of brilliance. And what's crazy is Jamal Murray, I feel like he's having a down year, right? He's been everyone's been kind of shitting on him not being that second piece and kind of missing in certain scenarios. The dude is averaging 26 and 4. And again, he's one of those players like a Tyrese Halliburton, where he gave us so much, he showed us so much potential that we expected to have these crazy 25, 26 a night, 10 assists, and he hasn't done that. But those are all-star numbers, and they are the 4th seed. So he had more points than the Brooklyn Nets, but the team did, I think, the other time.
Oh, God.
He's starting to find his rhythm. He's starting to kind of pick his spots and get comfortable. And again, he had an awful offseason. He didn't play great for the Canadian team. It kind of trickled over into the beginning of the season, but you're starting to see his confidence get back. You're starting to see him play through him a little bit more. And Jokic, by the way, needs him, because this team, again, as good as he is, as good as they are, you have to have that second kind of option, that scoring guard to kind of take some of the load off Jokic. So he's getting better and better every single night. And again, if he was averaging 2 or 3 more points a game, we're talking about him being on the. We didn't even just mention him in a whole All-Star segment. Nope. And the dude's averaging 26 and 4. It's because we know he's capable of being so much better. And the Nuggets kind of started off slow with their wins this year, but they're improving. He's improving. And yeah, the Nuggets are a scary team. I think it's OKC, honestly. And then everybody else, as good as Houston's been, as good as Memphis has been, as scary as the Nuggets and the Mavs and these teams can be, it's OKC and everyone else for me. Like, if you gave me OKC or the field right now, I would probably take OKC to come out of the West. They are that good.
I don't know what I would do. By the way, there's no official shoot. It's like Miami's just got the perfect storm of gray area going today for any answers that we may or may not want. There's no real shoot around today. Of course not. Why would there be today when we're waiting on Jimmy Butler? So we got a Magic at Celtics. That's happening tonight. You know what? Let's touch on the Celtics here for a second, because they did obviously have the hot start at 21-5, but since then 7-7. They lost to the Raptors in their last game. Look, they're the defending champs, Lou, so it's hard to get too worked up. But do you see anything here that might be something to be concerned about?
No worries. Listen, when you get all the way to the NBA Finals and then you win the NBA Finals and you're a champion, these games are like, let's get it over with already. Let's get to the real deal. Let's get to some real hoop. And that affords you the opportunity to go out there and try different things, try different lineups, see if this guy works with this guy. And you're just building, you're just armoring up to get ready for a playoff run. So sometimes that results in you dropping some games that you probably shouldn't drop. And also you got to consider, being the champion, you're going to get a team's best punch every single night. You might get an effort from a Toronto Raptors team that they may not give somebody else because of the position that you're in, because they want to use you as a measuring stick and where they are in the season. So for that, I'm not panicking if I'm the Boston Celtics. Just sometimes I feel like these guys are dealing with boredom. They're going out there and they're like, let's get to some real basketball already. And that puts them in a position to be vulnerable to lose games like that. So I have no worries for them. I feel like once the bright lights come on, the Boston Celtics will still be one of the top teams that we've always revered, the way that they've been able to play, and they'll be just fine.
Yeah, they're still the team to beat. And again,
yeah.
it's hard having a sports show 5 days a week because things change daily and everything happens. And then you got to kind of go on and on about something. But like the Celtics are 7-7 in the last 14 games. But it doesn't bother me. We know how good they are. We know how good they can be in the postseason. We know that they, like Luda said, they're not a team that's just going to wait and turn it on. They're going to gradually get better, but the season is long. So no matter how good your team is, no matter how bad your team is, you're going to have good stretches. You're going to have bad stretches. You're going to lose games you have no business losing. But for the most part, the Celtics are they're solid, man. They're solid. They're consistent. They're a team that, again, I trust. If they lose a bad game, it's not the end of the world. I will say the last couple of games, obviously the records are 500 and the last 3 weeks or so. Something does seem a little bit off. But again, I don't think it's anything concerning. I don't think it's anything that we need to, wow, the Celtics aren't the team to beat anymore, because they are.
Because they are. All right, we'll take a quick break. Some fun video on the other side. That man's got a family. We'll be back.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back.
Well, that man does have a family. And you guys, we mentioned Jalen Green in the dunk contests, and these are the types of things we want.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, that.
Please and thank you.
Love that.
Yep.
Chandler, did you see yesterday he got over the rim and like Dr. J just finger rolled it in?
His bounce is crazy, and he's one of those guys that's bouncy, but he's also like a crazy in-game dunker. He's not just like a show pony in the dunk contest. He will put it on your head.
That's what I'm saying.
Against this kid when he was in high school. He dunked on somebody at the gym, and I was like, "Who is this kid?" That was first time I played. What do you got, Christian?
Okay.
One for the home team, Lou.
Shut up, Chandler.
Who's the home team?
Who's the home team? Idiots.
We got 2 minutes. Let's make it out. Let's make it out clean. Got 2 minutes.
It's the weekend. Let's go. I'm going to Palm Springs. Going to Madison.
Oh my, Daniel Gafford. That's a layup. That's not a dunk.
Not on Yeezy's VC.
This doesn't count as a dunk right here.
In fairness, that is because I got a lot of people wanting to talk about that John Morant dunk on Wemby the other night, and it was a little bit more like that, but semantics, like it's a dunk. It's a dunk in my eyes.
Yeah, if you don't touch the rim, is it considered a dunk?
Apparently not by a lot of people, but
yeah, Zach Edey.
For me, it's are you not entertained? Oh, stop!
I like Zach Edey. People keep saying Zach Edey.
This wasn't even. I didn't even realize Wemby was in there. Michelle, look, she's ready to go to war.
I didn't even realize Wemby was in there. Yeah, right. You knew Wemby was in there. It's written on the screen.
Hey, look,
whatever.
The kid on the bench stood up and then sat down. Damn.
Real quick. Oh, wait, do that again. Well, that's not nice.
Who did he cross over, Michelle?
Vít Krejci. It's a hockey name, is what that is. A little crossover.
He was on hockey skates, is what he was doing.
I like that we're ending on what we're about to end on, because.
Hey.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's what you get. That's what you get.
Stone-faced. He's just stone-faced.
2 foot, 2 hands, but that's weak.
It's the after part, by the way. Chet has a large collection of eyeglasses. One day we should talk about that. His fitter brick is interesting. That's all I got for you. Guys, be safe this weekend. When I see you next, we'll be in studio on Monday. Don't try to get out of it, Chandler. We're on to you.
Have a good weekend.
Be safe.